right. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ugo Dre, and you are listening to Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. We do this every Mondays, 8 to 8:30 on this channel. Of course, you can catch a recorded version on the Nairametrics TV YouTube channel. Of course, we've got loads of other videos on the channel that you can go watch. The latest episode of our flagship Drinks and Mics podcast is currently up with another special guest on it. In fact, in case you want to know who that is, it's one of the who I call the OGs of Nigeria's the startup, scene or startup, sector. Someone who's invested in some of the biggest startups in this country: Paystack, MoneyPoint, Piggyverse. I mean, just think of them. Olumide Shoyombo. So you can go watch that. He dropped a whole lot of nuggets, especially for people who are looking at starting a business in Nigeria and going global with the business. Drinks and Mike's podcast, of course, always goes live every 6 p.m. Fridays. Yeah, of course, we got loads of other interesting podcasts as well on that channel. And this one, Follow the Money, one of my favorites, going to be there as well, even though I'm the one anchoring it, but I love watching it. So what a weekend it was for the Nairametrics crew. Of course, we had our Nairametrics Capital Market Award, the inaugural Capital Markets Awards on Friday at the Civic Center. And from the feedback we got, it was a pretty good show. And we had lots of dignitaries attend the awards, particularly captains of the capital markets. It was a night of fun. Of course, if you want to watch, you can go to the Nairametrics TV channel on YouTube, and you can catch the recorded version. Everything was recorded right there. And of course, we had the Minister of Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, grace the occasion as well. She did receive an honorary award. We also had representatives from the Central Bank as well. We had the Director General of SEC, Security and Exchange Commission. He was the guest speaker and did give a remarkable speech addressing a whole lot of things in the capital market. He was also an award winner as well. So well attended, of course. And then we had lots of companies who won awards. I don't know if I should even go through some of them, but there were some interesting, award winners, by the way. So overall, company of the year overall. No, let me wait for that first. Maybe I should go to some of the other ones here. We had one of my favorites, M&A Deal of the Year, Mergers and Acquisitions Deal of the Year, and that went to Seplat. Seplat acquired Mobile's upstream assets, and that was a mega deal last year. I'm sure a lot of you did track that deal. Took a while to be concluded, but eventually the president approved it and the deal went through, and it was one of the best deals last year. So that won the award for M&A Deal of the Year. Issuing House of the Year as well was another interesting award. I mean, there were a lot of companies who did a lot of work when it comes to issuing house, but one stood out completely. No competition there, even though it did have nominees as well. But Chapel Hill was just outstanding last year. They had a great year. And so they were the winners for this particular category. Of course, we also had Stock Market App of the Year. I mean, you get a lot of stock market applications these days where you can essentially buy stocks from, and one stood out as well, Bamboo. That happened to be the best stock market app last year. It was tightly contested. We also had Trove and Meritrade as well. Very good platforms as well. But, Bamboo, topped. There's been a lot of changes with their app, regular upgrades. And so they basically took that. On the insurance side as well, we did have nominees for Insurance Company of the Year. And one insurance company did very well, and basically just won that award. And as AXA Mansard had a remarkable 2024 as well, good numbers. And so they basically edged that one as well. Of course, We had an award for multinational. They have a lot of Nigerian companies these days that are multinationals that are like everywhere. They're just not, only in Nigeria. So they're operating outside Nigeria and breaking new grounds. That was a very tightly contested category because it had three of Nigeria's major multinationals. It had Access Holdings. You can see a lot of the stuff Access Holdings is doing across Africa, particularly buying up banks left, right, center. And then, of course, you have Dangote Cement that's operating across Africa as well, some parts of West Africa, East Africa, even Southern Africa, taking cement just beyond Nigeria and creating wealth for those of us in the capital market. And then you also have UBA as well, also spreading its tentacles across Africa. And guess what? Beyond Africa, even they are operating in New York and operating in Dubai as well. And so that kind of edged out the others, and EBA essentially won that because they were not just operating within Africa but outside as well. So the ability to go beyond, sub-Saharan Africa and outside, just so that you can provide banking services, was just quite remarkable because that contributed a whole lot to the company's bottom line. And of course, for shareholders. So they nicked that one clearly. We also had an award for the most improved commercial bank. That was a very tight one because a lot of banks did very well last year, but one bank just stood out in terms of improving numbers, particularly balance sheet numbers. We're pushing out how some of this data was done and how we came up with the awards, because Nairametrics Awards is purely data driven. Fidelity took that one. The way they grew their assets was just amazing last year. Looks like one of those banks that will be knocking on the door of tier one. If they don't get it this year, likely going to get it next year, but they are knocking on the doors of tier one. Forget about some of the news you've heard over the week. I think that's something that they're probably going to be able to surmount easily. It's a bit of a challenge, but I think they should be able to surmount that. Don't see how that is going to impact the ability of the bank to hit tier one. Well, I mean, it could impact it, but not that much. So looking like the next tier one bank knocking on the door. So they did improve massively last year. And then, of course, we also had Commercial Bank of the Year. That was a tough one because now you're basically mixing up tier one and tier two banks, and everybody just has different ways of growing. And even though it wasn't one of those banks that hit $1 trillion profit, but the revenue growth or the gross earnings growth, the profitability growth, some of their margins as well, very solid, and really like the way this bank is executing, at least for the last 3 years. So the folks at Wema Bank must be doing something different because they won Commercial Bank of the Year. Yeah, the banking sector was one of those sectors that we had multiple awards. And of course, tier one banks. Tier one banks are just in a different class of their own. So you also have to find a way of course, categorizing them. And tier one banks are just 5 of them, the Fugas. And one bank won that. And people were asking, well, how come they won it? Well, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. You go look at their numbers. Even though they were the tier one bank that did not hit $1 trillion in profits, but looking at where they're coming from, a lot of the challenges that they've had over the years, it was pretty remarkable that First Holdco did win that because their numbers growth-wise, their profitability numbers growth-wise, what's good. So, I mean, you can go from 800 million to $1 trillion. That's good. But then probably better if you're going from 300 billion to 600 plus billion. That's almost double. So these things do matter as well, how you're growing and how you're adding value to your shareholders. So this is just some of, cross-section of some of the numbers. What else was my favorite? Investor Relations Company of the Year. I kind of like that because that award was going to companies that, have very solid investor relations team. When you go to their website, you can download annual reports easily. You can download earnings calls, transcripts. These things are very easy to download. Even for AGM information is right there. You can access it easily, going back years, going back quarters, because these are all the information that investors typically need when they are, investing, or when they need to make good investment decisions. And so it was good that that category was created to reward, companies that take their time to do this. And investor relations is a very, very difficult job, and it's something that it's, revered globally, but Nigeria is still pretty much nascent. I mean, I am an investor relations practitioner myself, so I know what it takes to, put all these things together, all those IR reports. Now, these are amazing guys that are putting these things together. And so it was good that we won. And that was a very tight one too, because it did have three banks, and there were a lot of companies who had good ones, but these banks were very consistent. They always had earnings calls, earnings transcripts, IR reports on their website. You can go check it out yourself. There are First Holdco, GT, and Fidelity here. So they always have, reports there every quarter. And GT kind of nicked this one because most times, even when you listen to the earnings call, you always see the group CEO on the call breaking down some of the reasons or the facts behind their numbers. And so they just basically nicked it. But to be honest, the other guys also had very good, reports. Even Zenith wasn't part of nominees, but they do also have a very good IR team that did pretty well. And talking about Zenith, they kind of nicked the public offer and, right issue of the year. That too was contested. I feel like, how come Zenith won? I mean, Zenith wasn't the only bank that oversubscribed, but they were, they did raise the full amount. So that criteria basically is you got to be able to raise the full amount of money that you're trying to raise in one go. Remember, banks all went into recapitalization last year. Some did it in parts. But Zenith kind of did theirs in one blow. Zenith and Access, by the way, and they did theirs in one blow. And Zenith was quite oversubscribed, solid capital raised. The team behind it did a lot of work. The sort of technology that was also deployed in raising that capital was also something that we tracked. And the team behind the capital raise itself and the way it was sort of marketed was also something that was quite pleasing for us. And the fact that they raised all their capital in one blow was just remarkable. And of course, you also must have raised everything in 2024. There were some that raised theirs and spilled into 2025. So that didn't count. So you have to have raised your entire capital in 2024. And Zenith and Access were one of those companies who raised everything in 2024. Now, what was also interesting was we also had Nigerian breweries. They did raise capital last year, so they were part of the nominees as well. So that was quite an impressive number, impressive feat for them, especially when you consider the challenges they had in 2023 and 4 with FX. So, the team behind Nigerian breweries did solidly well. Just wasn't enough because of the size of the capital that likes of Zenith raised within such a very short period. And so Zenith nicked that one as the issuing house, the right issue in the public offer of the year. What else have I missed? Which other one? Dividend paying company of the year. Yeah, that's also one of my favorite because we all like dividend, don't we? We like dividends. So companies that pay dividends are very important on the capital market. And there were quite a number of them that, paid good dividend. But Dangote Cement kind of nicked this. And the people are like, wait a minute. It's not like one of those companies where you have a diverse number of shareholders who own that stock. But where the criteria here was basically, your dividend payout ratio, and then, over the last 5 years, how consistently have you paid dividend and what's your dividend growth as well. And they just kind of edged everyone. Yeah, even though most of the dividend goes to, perhaps one person or one organization, but they do pay dividends regularly. And beyond that, Dangote Cement also does this share buyback scheme, which if you all follow Warren Buffett, he really loves, because share buyback is basically each time you buy back your shares, you're reducing the amount of shares out in the market, and that increases your earnings per share, which also increases the value that your shareholders are getting, your remaining shareholders are getting. So, good use of a company's cash flow. And that's what they've been doing. So that's been, that's one of the reasons why they nicked down. It was also competitive because we also had NACO. Yeah, NACO was a very strong contender here. A lot of people don't know how well run NACO is. They do pretty well. And they're a good contender. All right, so that is the first half of the show. When we come back, we'll go to regular transmission. In case you wanted to see what happened, just go to Nairametrics YouTube channel and you can watch the video for the awards. I will be right back in a bit. All right, welcome back. This is Follow the Money with Ugo Dre, brought to you by Nairametrics, of course. So did I mention who won Company of the Year, though? Not sure I did that. In case I did not, it was Transcorp. Transcorp, yeah. They did win Company of the Year, and this was a very fiercely contested category as well, because for you to win Company of the Year, there's several things that had to be done, and it was pretty interesting because the group subsidiaries all did very well. Transcorp Power, Transcorp Hotel, produced solid numbers. Even their share price as well also gave shareholders impressive returns. So it was very, the company just basically nicked that one and became the Company of the Year for our inaugural Capital Markets Awards, fiercely contested. Aradale was very close as well. I kind of feel if probably, they were listed earlier on, maybe they would have given Transcorp a run, but Transcorp basically took this one as the Company of the Year for the Nairametrics Capital Market Award. So congratulations to Transcorp and their entire subsidiaries and group for doing this. That's I think probably the only conglomerate that has two of its subsidiaries also listed along with its parent company. So if you wanted to be just a shareholder in Transcorp Power, you're earning dividend there, you're earning value. If it's Transcorp Hotel, you're earning value, and then the group itself. So, they won that as the Company of the Year. All right, so back to the capital market. The Nigerian equities market, of course, ended the week in red as the all-share index dropped by 681 points to close at 109,000. So it's still slightly above 109,000, and that was a 0.62 decline from the week before. There were 52 gainers this week, down from 61 gainers the week before, and then 41 stocks lost compared to 31 the week before. So we had more losers, and then there were just 56 stocks that didn't move at all. Let's actually just have 56 stocks and they don't even move at all, like no change. Anyway, the week started with some kind of wild swings or mild swings, as we depicted. Monday and Tuesday saw minor movements, but the real action came midweek when we had heavy selling on Wednesday and Thursday, pushing the index down. In terms of index performance, the premium index was down 1.15%. And of course, that was basically due to declines from Access, MTN, Zenith, and UBA, all stocks that make up the NGX Premium Index. The NGX 30 Index, 30 of the largest stocks by market cap, also fell 0.5%, while the main board index itself was down 0.35%. Oil and gas sectors also lost a bit, while the banking sector did shed 1.52%. So basically all around losses in the NGX last week. There's something that always says sell in May and go away. I don't know if that's what's happening here. If you wanted to understand what that meant, just go to FTM website, ftm.ng. FTM, of course, stands for follow the money, but ftm.ng, that is my own exclusive blog where I often, share my stock picks. So some of the stocks that I'm looking at, stocks that I want to buy, stocks that I think it's probably time to sell, or stocks to hold, or just my watch list. These things are not public. I can't be sharing that information publicly. So if you want to access it, you have to go to ftm.ng. Could cost you, because it's exclusive for subscribers, so for core listeners of FTM. And so we did have top gainers and losers last week. Let's start with losers. Len Africa down 8%, in case that's one of the stocks you have. Legend Internet, they just basically came onto the exchange during the year, down 9.5%. Capital Offshore down 9.5% as well. Capital Offshore is something that looking like this stock might just hit my radar because the share price drop is getting into some territory that I like. Teleram's down 9.5%. Fidelity Bank down 10.3%. There is an article on Fidelity Bank on ftm.ng. You might want to check it. It's a buy, sell, or hold article. Basically, now that Fidelity Bank is facing a little bit of challenges, should you be buying, selling, or holding? You want to check my views on that stock, you have to go to ftm.ng. FTN Cocoa also down 11.9%. MPF Microfinance Bank down 12.7%. Transcorp Hotels down 15%. ABC Transport Company down 15.6%. And then Nimed Pharmaceutical was the largest loser of the week, down 17%. So a whole lot of stocks shedding major losses. eTransact, in terms of gainers, did 15.5%. Tantalizers, there's huge news about Tantalizers last week on Nairametrics. So they gained 17.39%. Of course, I mean, these are not stocks that you can easily buy anyway. So you better be careful with when you hear all those gains. Linkage Insurance, surprised this stock is still trading, but I mean, it did gain 17.6%. Regency Assurance 18%. Nestle Nigeria 19.5%. Talking about Nestle, on the consumer goods side of our awards, Boa Foods nicked that one. They were clearly the best consumer goods company last year. So congrats to Boa Foods for that. But Nestle is up 19.5%. Nestle was one of my stock picks on Follow the Money. So for those who, maybe read that, hoping that you guys are smiling to the bank because Nestle has been doing well this year so far. Unicell Interlinked gained 20.4%. John Holt up 20.6%. Penny stock Red Star Express 20.9% in 1 week. Jeez. Custodian Investment was also one of our stock picks as well. Last week, we did report about it on Nairametrics itself and also on Follow the Money, and they gained 21.45% last week. I think the report was that appears we thought that was an undervalued stock, and kind of looks like the market picked up on that and kind of reflected what we're saying, and it gained 21.45% last week, of course. QTix was the top gainer for the week with 21.9%. So lots of AGMs happening during the week. We did have Champions Breweries, Burger Paints, First Hold Co. all passed key resolutions when it comes to dividend. First Hold Co, I was at the AGM, and a lot of shareholders wanted significantly more dividend, and they put pressure on the board and management, and they did come through and said, you know what, we are going to give you guys more dividends this year. I think shareholders want a dividend of $1.50 and above, and I think the chairman and the GMD did assure their shareholders that that was the plan, and to raise dividend. Their dividend, I think this year was 60 kobo or thereabout, and shareholders thought that that was, pretty small, but it looks like it's a bank that's going through transition. I mentioned they were the tier one bank of the year because of their numbers, but in terms of dividend payout ratio was pretty small, and shareholders did pass that message across. And so looking forward to a better year. And so you might not want to bet against First Holdco at the moment. Seplat as well did also say they were going to declare dividend Q1. It's going to be hard. The way I'm seeing Seplat go when it comes to dividend paying, they are knocking on the door. Airtel as well, by the way, was a nominee for dividend payer of the year. But Seplat is really, really closely behind as well, looking like they might be a major contender this year. What else? Linkage Assurance released these numbers. Maybe that was the reason behind the share price surge. They released its Q1 numbers during the year. And then finally, Fidelity Bank, of course, was in the news. There was some sensational news last week, but the central bank has come out to clearly state that no bank is in danger in Nigeria, and the bank itself has also come out to expressly state that the bank was in good shape despite the court ruling that they are basically addressing. And of course, just to show confidence, the MD CEO of the bank did purchase over 300 million naira in shares of that bank. And so nothing to be worried about. And like I mentioned, you can go read our buy, sell, or hold on Fidelity Bank, just to give you an idea of what we think as well, or what I think basically this means for them. Of course, I mean, don't see anything wrong with the bank as far as I'm concerned. All right, so next week we're going to be looking at banking sector on Follow the Money. We're going to be reviewing some of our top banks, how they performed last year and Q1, and we will be possibly doing a buy, sell, or hold for them. So you don't want to miss out on Follow the Money next week on Monday while we run through the banking sector and how well they have performed. We did consumer goods some weeks ago, so it's time for the banks to have their own day on this show. All right, so that has been Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics, and you guys have been for those of you on your way to work, I hope you have a splendid day. Of course, you can always catch any of the previous versions of the show on our YouTube channel, Nairametrics TV. We've got a whole lot of shows on that channel that you can watch as well. I mean, Nairametrics is basically everywhere online that you go to. You can follow us as well on Instagram for our short videos, or on X for breaking news. We're also on TikTok for young people who are new to finance and looking for credible financial information. You go to our TikTok and you can get us right there as well. I'm not sure about Snapchat though, but at least I know we're on most of these platforms. All right, this has been Follow the Body, brought to you by Nairametrics. We do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30. Until we do this again next week, do have the most profitable week ahead. Bye.